Recording. So, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm Susan Labadi. As Sister Sophia mentioned, Assalamu alaikum. I'm a board member of CISNA and a former school administrator and teacher. And I am joined today by my colleague, Sister Necva Ozgur, who has oodles of experience. And we conceived that it would be great to be able to come up with some real life scenarios. These that you are going to experience, there'll be a total of 10, are true stories of things that happen. And so part of our effort is really to be able to train your minds how to think, because being in positions of leadership, there are so many decisions that you need to make on a daily basis. And really, there are challenges to ethics at times, as I'm sure you know. So in looking at the stories of some other administrators and boards and what they've been through, we're hoping that we can relieve you of a lot of anxiety and perhaps show you the patterns of thinking that you need to have. And so without any further ado, let's try to begin as I switch my screen. Please feel free to put questions into the chat and let people know, if you would, that we also have our WhatsApp groups. Not everybody, I think, that is able has joined us yet for those. And so it would be wonderful to have you share those with others. And let's see if we can kick up our PowerPoint and begin our show. Okay, are we catching that? Inshallah. All right, we have our disclaimer, of course, because none of this is considered true legal advice. You are always encouraged to be able to go to your own legal counsel. So we would relinquish any liability if the same situation happens to you. It might be different in your state because states do vary. But as I said, what we're trying to do is show you the pattern of thinking. Ideally, all boards should have board training. And we know that's not possible sometimes for schools that are in the beginning of their adventure, but we really would encourage that people make that investment as soon as possible because it can relieve you from potential liabilities and a lot of headaches. All right. What I'm going to try to do is make this a little bit more interactive as well. So for the first 5 scenarios, inshallah, and I have a backup in case it doesn't go through right, I'd like you to go to your phone and go to menti.com. Some of you might have the app for Mentimeter. And if you would please put in the code 4801077. You might want to take a screenshot of that if you're not able to get to it fast enough, but we want to go to menti.com and put in the code 4801077. So this is a little bit of a challenge to see, do you get the right answer that I'm hoping to implement for the first 5 scenarios.
So can we
run that by again? Sophia, I didn't hear you.
Okay, I just was checking, asking to see if we could do this on our laptops as well, right? The menti.com?
I believe so. Okay, switching screens. All right, so scenario number 1, a school board member was approached by a group of concerned parents because they said and I have to reduce my window here, sorry. They said a fiction book with un-Islamic values was in the school's library and they wanted it removed. The school board member was obligated to share this information with the board after advising parents that the book was to be discussed in the next board meeting and that the board chair or board representative would inform them of the board's decision. So the question to you would be, what would be the right thing to do? And let's see if I can switch over screens to Menti.
$4801077, correct? I'm just trying to put into the chat.
This is what I'm getting. Okay, so these are your choices. Tell the library. contact the school's legal advisor for guidance, or create a policy to protect all books within the school from censure? What do you think is the best solution for this board? We seem to have 7 participants. The clock is ticking. And, okay, there were actually 2 potentially correct answers here. You can contact the school's legal advisor for guidance if you have one, or you should create a policy to protect all books within the school from censure. And let me give you some background on that particular case. All right. Now, the petitioners, the officers, and members of the school board sought to remove objectionable books from school shelves. The respondents, PICO, and other students at the high school and junior high school were the respondents. They brought action in the district court seeking injunctive relief from the pulling of the books. Now, after attending a conference sponsored by Parents of New York United, I'm getting a notification, they're blocking my view. The petitioners obtained a list of books that the politically active conservative group found to be objectionable. Upon returning to the school, petitioners found that 9 of the listed books were in their libraries, and they appointed a book review committee to determine whether the books were in fact objectionable. When the respondents learned of the impending restriction, they brought suit in the district court seeking injunctive relief from the pulling of the books. The district court granted summary judgment in favor of the petitioners. The appeals court, however, overturned the summary judgment and granted injunction on behalf of the respondents. After the petitioners filed petition with the Supreme Court of the United States, which granted certiorari. Now, it basically means that they agreed to sit and see what the case was about. So this is the law that it was really referencing. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution encompasses a right to receive information in the school setting. A student's right to receive available viewpoints cannot be suppressed by school officials merely because they politically disagree with the information. And the key few words here are available viewpoints. And this was the point. Since the books were already in the library, they could not pull them back from the students. Had the books not already been in the library, there wouldn't have been an issue. So that is something to be aware of. All right, that's number 1. Number 2, I'm getting a little bit difficulty in seeing my screen because it's above. So Sophia, can you read me my first line, please? Are you able to see that? My tabs above are blocking me out.
Scenario 2, a board member who is also a parent is approached by their child's teacher who wants to purchase furniture for the classroom. The teacher references an online store and convinces the board member how it'll help children concentrate in the classroom and benefit the hyper kids. The board member likes the furniture and immediately enters the school credit card to purchase the equipment without prior approval from the principal. The teachers later inform the principal about the chairs in their classroom.
Thank you. Okay. In making this PowerPoint, there was so much information. A lot of these scenarios I had to condense, and now as my tabs on the top for the Zoom are blocking me out, I'm going to have some issues here. So thank you, Sophia, for backing me up. Next, I want to be able to find my cursor and see if we can swing back up into.
Do you want to take questions about specific scenarios as we go, or do you want to wait?
Let's wait if we can, because we do have several to go through, and I want to make sure that we can get through all of the scenarios, and then we'll take time for questions afterwards. Okay. So let me see if I can advance into my next Menti here. All right, and I am having an issue with advancing this. Too many windows are open, unfortunately. All right, this is why we have the backup plan. Let's go to Plan 2. And Plan 3. All right, sorry folks, let's go back to what we decided to do if this happened. All right, so what would have been the right thing to do? All right, these are your 3 choices. The board should have used his personal credit card to pay for the furniture, so the problem is resolved quickly. Number 2, the board member acknowledges the equipment may help the children and asks the teacher to convince the principal to purchase it. Or number 3, the board member should talk to the principal about his conversation with the teacher and discuss the budget. So what do you think would have been the right thing to do? Number 1, number 2, or number 3? As it turns out, really the ideal situation is to have the board member talk to the principal about his conversation with the teacher and discuss the budget. And Sister Necva, can you help us out with why you think that is the correct answer with your expertise?
Sister Nedra, you need to unmute yourself, I think.
I think the principals should always be part of this kind of decisions. Without involving the principal, even if the money or the budget is not an issue, it is not a good idea for teachers to run to the board member, or the board member will be kind of making these kind of decisions. Is not the right thing to do. The best thing is to convince the board, convince the principal, and the board member could say that we could have the budget for it. We could raise the money, or the board has certain amount of budget, but the principal should be part of a decision making.
Exactly. So the principal is always considered the captain of the ship, and there should certainly be no surprises such as this for a principal to have to endure. Yes. All right, thank you. Let's go to number 3. You are a board member of a school that planned to have a board meeting twice a month. However, again, my screen. However, each time an appointment is scheduled, very few members show up to the meeting. So your board has not had a quorum for the past 3 months. Many crucial decisions must be made, and one was for a significant repair. The school is under pressure by the village officials to repair a retention wall, and a decision must be made to raise money for restoration. Otherwise, the school could be under citation, which we know nobody wants that to happen. So what would you do? Your options are: the board members may not meet unless there is a quorum. They can communicate via email. 2, send out an email to secure their vote by a specified date, and an absent vote would be considered a yes. And of course, you would inform them that if they failed to respond, that they're going to be automatically considered a yes. And number 3, the board should change its bylaws and take out the quorum clause. So what do you think is the right thing to do? Generally, the correct answer would have been to send out an email to secure their vote. If they're not showing up for whatever reason, that is a separate issue. You really have 2 issues here. Their attendance is one, and there should be some expectations in their agreement to join the board as to if they're not going to attend a certain number, then they may be dismissed, and the board chair would be expected to talk with them. But if this is an important decision that does need to be made because the school would be threatened by a citation, then this would be an acceptable backup plan, is to be able to indicate to them that you have a certain date to respond to, and if you are not responding, then you are going to be considered in compliance with voting for it. Next up, number 4, the school approved a budget to purchase one-on-one laptops for the middle school. They need to decide on whether funds will be invested in Chromebooks, notebooks, or tablets, and from which source. One of the board members is part owner of a technology company that makes tablets and tries to convince how their tablet will be a better purchase idea. After the majority vote, the board voted to purchase Chromebooks. The board member who was outvoted felt upset and is deciding to resign from the board. What would have been the right thing to do? Number one, choice. The board members should excuse themselves where there is a conflict of interest. 2, the board members should agree to the consensus and keep aside their personal agenda. And number 3, the board member is free to resign. So what do you think would be the right thing to do? In a sense, all of these are correct, because many times we have to issue that we are going to be exempting ourselves, or that we should be transparent if there is a personal vested interest in something going a certain way for our behalf. And so it should be known to the rest of the group as to what that situation might be. But then again, maybe the committee could have decided to go along with that board member's company. But at least if that's on the table, then it should be revealed. And
I think
the board members are always free to resign, but we hope that they will not. Yes, Sister Necva.
I have something to add here. I think the board should have a policy that they would never make major decisions like this without getting 3 estimates. And those 3 estimates could be, one of them could be from that board member. And whichever is the better, better agreement, then they will decide on it. So this way, the board member also will see that, let's say the person who is giving estimate for such and such is a better option for the school.
Exactly. Yes, thank you. All right, let's go on to the final scenario that I have, and then we'll go to Sister Necva's. All right. Sophia, help on the first line, please. I'm blacked out again. So much on the screen.
Okay, scenario 5. During the online test, one of the board members, who is also a parent, called the principal, informing him that the teacher was harsh and rude to their 8th grade child. He said the child is distraught with the school and the teacher. Upon investigating, the teacher told the principal that the students in her class were writing an exam and were supposed to turn it in at a particular time. When the time was up, the teacher asked all the students to upload the exam, but one of the students, the board member's child, said she was not done, closed off the screen, and muted. The paper was turned in after 3 hours. This was the second time it happened. A day before, the student also turned in, oops.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. Let's go back.
The day before, the student also turned in her paper late because she walked away from the test. The board parent demanded an investigation.
Oh, yes. So here we go. Board members' children's and teachers' children and principals' children. How many of us have had some hairs get raised because of these situations? What would you do? Overlook the scenario and deduct points since she's the board's daughter, invalidate the exam and inform parent that she will retake it to be fair, or fail the student. I recall as I was going through principal training with the Illinois Principal Association, there was a veteran principal who was promoted to superintendent. He was just very well liked. He did a wonderful presentation similar to this, where he had so many scenarios. And I will tell you, the number one thing that stayed in my mind, and I used it every single day, was always, always remember your ethics. So what do you think would be the right thing to do? Difficult as it may be, failing the student. This is an 8th grader in this scenario. Life has its tragedies, but it really shows no sympathy to many people. And in order to be fair, it would not be fair if the student were to have another repeat on the exam. And chances are, of course, the principal would impose that that teacher has to rewrite the exam just because of a student who misbehaved. So on this particular exam, it seems logical and fair that the student would be failed. All right. With that, let's switch over to some of the other scenarios that Sister Necva is going to take the lead on. And do we want to make a break right now for some questions, Sister Sophia, do you think? I don't know the chat box. I can't see it if we have a lot.
There was one about for religious schools and the library and books and so forth, and how religious schools may be exempt from some of these rulings. And I believe that religious schools do have, there are provisions that allow for religious schools to, as long as they have, their policy is clear. So what my experience has been, I wish we had Brother Safa here for his legal opinion, but as long as your school, if it's an independent school, private school, religious school, if you have guidelines and you're following your own policies, then you're okay. But if there's something that's not covered in your own policies, then, you know, you may be subject to other rulings.
Gotcha.
I don't know if anyone else has, you know, something they can add to that or would like to add.
Get
I
your own
think
advice.
it is always a lifesaver to have a policy, and without policy, it is very difficult. So if there is a policy, then you just follow your policy, whether it is the board member's child or the teacher's child, whoever. And I remember that that was one of the most difficult thing. And we used to have some trainings to the board members who has a child in the school, that it is kind of, you are wearing two hats, and be sure that you are not using your board hat when you are talking to a parent, to a teacher or a principal.
Yeah, I can't wholeheartedly agree with that. It was something like if you have a policy, that's going to be your safety net. But more often than not, something happens and you don't have a policy, and that helps you remember you better make a policy about this.
Yeah.
And so in the scenarios that are coming up, policy will be discussed. But I wanted to make the point that it's important to always remember which hat you are wearing. I mean, to this day, you know, if my kids call mom, I don't answer, I don't hear them. But if they still say Mrs. Labate, boom, you know, I get it. I'm on with them right away. So it's something that we really need to discipline ourselves and to remember our responsibilities as leaders in our schools. All right, with that, then Sister Nejwa, I'll have you take
Okay.
over.
Yes. If you allow me, I think I'm going to share this scenario with you, because this is something that it's a real story. It happened to me, and it's, after so many years, still it affects me. So I will share the story first. Every year I used to do a meeting with every teacher just to find out how was their year went, and what are the things that's not working out. And during one of those meetings, one of my teacher told me that next year she's not going to come back. And her reason was, one of the local independent school is offering her double the salary that we were giving her. And after going through the whole discussion and trying to convince her, and in fact, it is pulling the Islam, and it is your reward is in the day of judgment, and all of those things, I saw that she's not going to be convinced. And I told her that it would not be fair to the rest of the teachers, because I cannot give them the double the salary. Then if this is your decision, may Allah be with you. Of course, the next thing is the story went to the board, and then one parent who had 3 kids in the school came to see me. And she said, it is whatever the amount that she's getting from the other school, I'm willing to write you a check right now. And she pulled her checkbook and started writing the check. I said, no, I won't be able to do that, because it is not fair to the rest of the teachers. And in fact, I said, all our teachers are paid low salaries. If you are going to be able to give me that check and tell me that give it equally to all the teachers, then I will take your check. Otherwise, no. She said, okay, then I'm going. And then she took, she left the room, and then she said, I'm going to take my children from the school, and I'm going to discuss this with the board. And of course, that year it is, she pulled her 3 kids plus 3 other families. They find out about the situation, and then they pulled their kids too. So we lost about 10 students that year. So it was a sad story for me, because I really felt that it is not fair to the rest of the teachers. So I'm giving here the 4 options, but it could be other discussions too. We could hear from all of you. Number 1, take the check and try to convince the teacher to stay. I thought I did that. Number 2, take the check and use it for a raise to all the teachers. She didn't agree on that. Number 3, inform the board and ask them for their wisdom and let the parent leave the school. So what will be your feedback? Any thought different than here? Could it be a better option? Do we hear the respondents or just their numbers?
They can unmute themselves if they would like to. I was just thinking, Sister Najwa, for this one, where you have informed the board and asked them for their wisdom. I'm thinking more inform the board, yes, and not necessarily have them make the decision, like let them dictate, but have a discussion, and the principal and board together can have a policy to establish so that every time something like this happens.
Yes, in fact, I asked the board chair if we can put it in the agenda, because I knew that it was going to be a big deal and the news going to reach them and everyone is going to have an opinion. So we had even a discussion in the board, and unfortunately, some of the board members felt like I should have get the money. So I still, till this day, I feel like, no, it wasn't the right decision to get the money. And so they decided to leave the school.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if you'd want the board to be the ones to make the decision, but at least they should be informed and they can, everyone can be included in the decision process.
Yeah.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Sorry, can I ask a question to add to this?
Yes.
My name is Sikandar Masih. I'm in Oklahoma City Mercy School. If you have one of your best teacher of the school for many years, and the principal had some disagreement about how to deal with the high school students, and that disagreement escalates to a point that board has to decide whether you can keep the principal or that the most valuable teacher for the school. How would a board then agree with it? How would decide or deal with this scenario?
Well, the decision of hiring, firing, or keeping any teacher is the school heads or the principal's responsibility. And so it is totally a principal's decision to keep whoever they want to keep, whoever they want to just let go. Of course, the principal's also responsibility is to explain to the board the reasons for having certain decisions, and keeping them informed is very important. Well, general rule is all the teachers or the staff members are the school heads or the principal's employee. And the only employee the board has is the principal. So when you keep that formula in mind, it is very clear that the principal will make all these decisions. However, it is for her sake or for his sake, it is having a conversation with the board, and convincing the board is very important, the reasoning. One of the major challenges sometimes, because of the personal issues, you don't want to tell all the board members this teacher has this problems, because you don't want this to become a legal issue, or for some of the board members take it outside and all of a sudden it will become the community's issue. So it is very fine line how the principal is going to inform the board without getting into the confidentiality of the teacher. Yeah, anyone else wants to add to this or ask some questions?
This is Amna from Salam Academy in New Mexico.
Yes.
what if, like, I totally agree, the principal has the authority to hire, fire the teacher, but what if the principal has some issue where he or she will just fire people because they did not come to the meeting, or they were asked to show up in the office right away and they were busy teaching the class, and they just keep firing person one after another? That does affect the employment status of the school. And then you understand what I'm trying to say, but
Of course I do. Of course I do. And that's a problem too. But the board is in charge of the actions of the school head or the principal. It is throughout the year, the board should be evaluating the principal, getting some feedback from different group of people, and then sending some questionnaires to the teachers or the parents. Board should be always aware of what is going on. If there are certain problems coming from every group, then you will start questioning that principal's integrity or the problems that she's having. So although the board will assign the responsibility to the principal is also responsible to the board and to the whole community with her actions or his actions.
This is
I
very
think-
didactic. Like
Can I add one more? Sorry.
Please.
Can I add one more thing? The dilemma as a board we face is lack of trained manpower, both in the administrative capacity and in the teaching capacity. So sometimes we make decisions based on the reality on the ground, that if I let this principal go or this teacher go, how I'm going to replace it, because there are not many Muslims or qualified or trained, well-trained principals available or the teachers available. And that dilemma is creating a lot of problems for the health and the growth of the Islamic schools. Any of the other schools face the same challenge that we face.
I think you have a very valid issue there, a challenge there. However, knowing the reality that the principal is not treating the teachers in a right way, and I cannot let her go because I can't find a teacher, is not the right answer. What you would do is, at least you know the problem, at least you will meet quite often with the principal and try to figure out how is she improving her actions or what is she doing, and making her aware that this problem is really important for the board, but we want to give you a chance to improve your actions, is very important. I would not just cover up the problem because I'm not going to find the right principal later on. At least I will work with the principal, and I will try to help her to become a better principal.
Okay.
Any more? Okay.
this is Amna again, sorry. What if any of the principal decide not to honor the authority of the board, in the sense that if board ever asks for a report, like for example, how's the student's performance, like a general report, because you have to, do a newsletter or something, and the principal said that you cannot just ask me or whatever, I don't take your authority. It's more because of the community stuff, because everybody knows everybody. So people often are like, who are you to ask me? Because I know you as a brother, or I know you as a sister. We have this issue a lot in our community.
No, I think the culture that you are creating in your school needs to be very clear. The school head or the principal is responsible to the board, and the board is supposed to know the problems and issues and give notices to the principal. So let's say one of the reasons could be maybe the board didn't understand how much time it's going to take. I mean, if they're asking tomorrow we want this report to be ready, then the principal needs to explain and needs to establish a relationship that she has a right to tell the board that I need for this report maybe a month or something like that. and the board needs to accept that. But other than that, the principal doesn't have a right to say, who are you to ask me this report? No, that's not acceptable. And these should be all written in the end of the school year in summative evaluation that should come up, that the principal didn't do A, B, C, and we are giving her a notice for 1 more year. And this is, by the way, it is a very common practice in the independent schools. Not every school head or the principal is doing a great job in the independent schools. And sometimes they give a notice to the principal, this is your last year, and we will be looking for a new principal, and you will be looking for a new job. That's a very common practice in the independent schools. Islamic schools, they don't do that much because of that community element there. But it is just with the agreement sitting together, look, you had 10 goals this year and you only achieved 2 of them. We asked you whatever you didn't do. So because of these, you are going to go ahead this year and prove to us that you are able to do a better job this year, or in the end of the year, it will be your last day. And and you start looking for a new principal.
I totally agree what you're saying, but
Yeah.
sometime I'm sure other people who are listening probably go into similar situations that the principal may threaten the school, saying, and that happens, not just threaten, that the community will divide in the sense that the board is pressurizing the person, the board is not doing their correct job, the board gets into the position where the board cannot talk much about the person to the community, while the community will start coming and putting the blame on the board that you are fighting or you are not letting this particular person do the job because you are using your board power, even though that's not the situation. It's just that the principal is refusing to follow the guidelines. And just because of the community thing, and we usually have smaller communities, especially in many areas of US, everybody knows everybody. So when a principal is gone, meaning probably 20% of the students are gone too.
Yeah. Well, it is, again, we need to do everything by the book. It is one time that I had some difficulties, challenges with a administrator, not even a principal. I was the principal that time. And I asked and this person gave years to the school. And it was very difficult to ask that person to leave the school because of her efforts and all the things she did. However, some things happen and the things start going sour. So that time I asked the lawyer, school lawyer, what do I do? And what he said is document, 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 document. And I had 1 whole year documenting all the things that I asked that she didn't do. I asked all the things that she was supposed to do, and it is not there. So anyway, these were all part of, and the evaluation. These were all part of 2 binders. And when I met with the lawyer, he said, you did a great job. And with this, even if she goes to the court, no court will make you fail. It is like, these are all valid things you reported. So anyway, that's what I would suggest. No board should be just going very comfortably firing people. No, and also that's the only person you could fire, the school head. And the word fire should not really be used in the school setting. It is totally agreed between 2 parties. This is not working out because of, look, all these documentation. So both parties should agree that this is not working. So let us just end this relationship end of the year, and you look for a job and the school will look for a new principal. Because this is important, because you don't want the principal all of a sudden see in the magazine, New Horizon magazine or the Islamic Horizon magazine, that the school is looking for a principal. This is a very sad situation. So this is a common agreement. And your documentation is going to help to prove to that principal. No principal is going to open their mouth and say, if you had one binder of information and records that the things are not moving right. And I used to ask her also, this is
Is it just me or have we all frozen on Sister Necva?
Yeah, I
I
can
think we lost her.
Oh, okay. I tell you, for those of you that you don't have your entire boards watching this, there will be a recording. We'll put it up on our channel on YouTube under CISNA Office on YouTube. That's our account. Please make sure that maybe even at one of your board meetings or prior to it, you have everybody, take a look at this because this is free board training that you're getting, folks. Very didactic.
you are not hearing me, Sue?
I hear you now. You're back.
Okay, okay. So anyway, I hope I made the point that it is very important to record everything, and it is, and with the both agreement that you reach a point that this is not working out, let us give ourselves 1 year to go through that. We look for a principal and you look for a job. So this should be a common understanding. After that, it is Allahu Alam what will happen, but it is you did your part in a best way.
Indeed. All right, let's go to the next scenario if we can.
Okay.
All right. So I'll just read it through. After a recent accreditation committee confirmed that the school was running well and the board was trained and working harmoniously with each other, and the school had an experienced educator, that school head was, they all felt very positive. At midterm, 2 new trustee members were elected, but only 1 attended board training. A week before the annual meeting, the board papers were sent to the trustees. One of the new trustees, experienced an accountant, sent a 6-page email to the school head criticizing that the head failed to comply with common practices in accounting and financial management. He requested all copies of all contracts ever signed by the school, all past audited accounts, and all minutes of previous meetings. The school head called the board chair to discuss the email. And although he agreed that the new member's demands were unreasonable, he did not address this with the new member. So the day of the annual meeting came and the new member put the school head on the spot, asking her pointed questions and undermining the answers. The head felt very upset and asked the board chair to talk to the new member to resolve the issue. And when he accepted the board chairmanship, he said he didn't agree to become the board disciplinarian. So there are a lot of points in here. Sister Necva, run through our food for thought.
Yes. This is something, it is one way or another, it is a very common problem in a different ways. And one of the thing is, who is the board disciplinarian? I want to ask. It is lots of principals or the school heads. They have issues with the board. And when they talk to the board chair will either minimize it or whatever. And I had also a very similar response from my board chair. He was a wonderful person, but who said, no, I can't do that. These are all my friends. And I'm not the disciplinarian. I'm not going to ask the board member why he didn't attend the meeting or why he didn't give the report that he was supposed to give. This is something very, very difficult for the board chair. But I have to tell you, board chair is the disciplinarian. Well, it is, a brother is writing here, shouldn't all the board keep themselves? Well, in a way, yes, but it is the main person. This person, this new board member, he didn't attend the orientation or the board training session. Understand, he or she doesn't have a right to the school head and asking 6 pages of information. This is not his right. And if it is going to happen, it is not going to happen in one meeting. All of this information is going to come as he please. But if he really felt that something is going wrong, I think he needed to have a meeting with the board chair and discuss these issues. And one of the other things for the school head is just in front of 10, 12, 15 board members, all of a sudden put in a spot and being asked with certain questions. Here, although he asked in an email, again, these information need to be gathered and collected and whatever. And who knows if the board needs to open up all these subjects. The best thing to do is between 2-3 people, this needs to be opened and understood and suggested, yes, we need to question all these, or these are the issues that we did it before, so we are not going to open up these subjects. So main problem here is I see the board chair, although he sounded he's agreeing with the school head, but not giving her an opportunity, having a discussion with this new board member and giving an impression that he agrees with the school head, but in the meeting putting her in a difficult position. This is something that I feel like it was the main problem. What other problems that you see here? One of the things that I'm asking here, the preventive measures, I think every new board member should go through board training, understand their responsibilities.
Sister Najwa, I think Brother Salman wanted to say something. He had a question or statement.
Yeah, just real quick. We actually have been through the same scenario in a very different setting though. The board comprised of people who were not accommodation, in the academics. And, one day we had a new board member who joined and who was from the academic background, just like in this case, somebody who had a financial background. And the principals typically, they do a really good job. They run the school, but at the same time, they get into a comfort zone. As a board chair, you know the stance of the principal that they're trying hard, but the new perspective and the things that the other person is bringing is also really important. But at the same time, trying to find that balance and have some conflict resolution, that's something that's needed probably as a training to not only the board members, but to a board chair more importantly than anyone else. Because it's not just the financial scenario, but the other scenario wherein, sometimes you don't see the things hiding in the plain sight that, okay, some of the basic things that should have been done in education setting that, the other board members, since they're not in academics, they don't know, but then somebody comes in and opens their eyes up. So at that time, there's a fine balance that needs to be, I think the conflict resolution is one, and then also coaching both the parties.
Exactly. One of the things that I would recommend that it is very important to have regular meetings between the board chair and the principal. Regular to me is like weekly meetings. In those meetings, both parties, they should come up with 3-4 bullet point issues to discuss with each other and educate each other. So the problems should be solved in those sessions without bringing it to the board. So the principal should say, let's say, I was kind of distracted looking at something here. The principal should say that, well, these are issues gone in the school and I'm dealing with it. Let's say one of the issues, it comes toward which it shouldn't come, is let's say the 3rd grade teacher, she's not giving a good class or that classroom management is not good. This should not be discussed in the board meeting because the principal is there every day and she should be checking every classroom, especially if there is some issues coming up about the 3rd grade teacher. So if we have a weekly meeting, the principal should say, I know that maybe it came to your attention or not, but it is the 3rd grade teacher is having some challenges and I'm dealing with it. I'm doing A, B, C, D. So what happens is in the board meeting, if one of the board member opens up the topic, the board chair would say, this is not a board issue, but I know that our principal is working with that issue.
And so,
Someone said something? Hello?
Go ahead, Sister Necva.
Yes. So anyway, these meetings are very important to help each other. The school head will help the board chair to understand certain things. Let's say in the previous scenario, if they were sitting together and questioning this new board member, asking all these questions, board chair could have helped the school head understand that, well, you know what, these are things coming up since last year. So let us, for sake of informing all the board members, let's help this. But I understand that maybe you need a little bit more time. Let us maybe, not this board meeting, but next board meeting, let's devote quite a bit of time, and you will have all the information ready, and our financial committee will help you also to put some information together. It would have really helped to school head understand what's happening, or the school head will convince the board chair this is not really something that it is needed, and it is done, and all of you know, maybe he doesn't know certain things, and this way the board chair would have a meeting with the new board member and inform him. But the worst thing is just for both parties to feel that the school head feeling that, oh, this issue is resolved. Meantime goes there, and then they look at her, where is the information? And then also for the new board member thinking that information is going to come, and it didn't come. So it is basically putting the problem, making the problem bigger.
Sister Najwa, if, let's say, this week a board member has a concern about the third grade teacher, is there a preferred protocol that board member should contact the principal directly to mention something, or should they report to their own board chair and have the board chair discuss that third grade teacher? Is there a preference on what a board member should do when they learn of something? I believe we're frozen again on Sister Najwa.
You're
Cal-
losing me.
There we go.
California must be having some Wi-Fi issues.
Fun spots.
Hello?
Yes.
Do you hear me now?
Yes,
Do
you're
you hear
on.
me now? So I had an ideal board chair. He used to come, stop by and say salam in the morning and just say, he wouldn't even come and sit from the door. He says, I hope you will have a wonderful day. I'm hearing some things about the third grade teacher, but I'm sure you are doing something about it. Just informing me and showing me the trust that they had on me, that I will be handling it. And this was an alert for me that the board members are hearing about this, and I need to do something more, or I need to inform them more, or it needs to be something happening there. So it is important.
So if there is a board member that hears of something that they're concerned by, they should report it to the board chair, who will then be expected to mention it to the principal. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
The worst thing is the
sources. Yeah.
principal every day receiving 4 or 5 board members coming and telling her something.
Gotcha. Gotcha. You know, conflict
Same issue.
resolution leads right into our next scenario. So I'm going to jump ahead into that one. All right. A school had a loose sick leave policy with no limits on the number of sick leave hours an employee could use. The principal granted leave at her discretion. All was working well until a member began taking excessive sick days, and this affected the morale of the other staff. The school had consulted the board's personnel committee to develop a clearer sick leave policy, and they did. However, when it went for board approval, the employee, who knew 2 board members, talked them into disapproving the policy. Subcommittee, and I'm not able to see the rest of my screen. Sophia, jump in if you could please for a few words there.
Subcommittees become frustrated.
Yeah, I could.
Frustrated. Okay, since neither of the two offered requested input when drafting the policy, things got personal and harsh words flew around the table. The board was severely divided and tabled the issue, never to pick it up again. Subsequently, the school head felt betrayed by her board. The board had conflicts over other issues too, and conflicts contributed to job dissatisfaction and eventually the resignation of the school head. So something so minor blew into something very major. Sister Necva, take it away. There was a lot to learn from this.
Yeah. Well, I have quite lengthy food for thought here. Both new employees and the board members needed to be told during the orientation that the principal is the point person for the board of directors. Well, just running when you don't like something as a teacher, running to the board is not okay. So everyone needs to understand that. Number two, talk to staff person about expectations that she follows the organization's communication policy. Also discuss the consequences of disregarding the policy. This is kind of very similar to the first one. Number three, it's also imperative to talk with those two board members who were involved with the staff member regarding her concern and the problem created by not following existing communication policies. This is something also the board members should not take upon themselves, trying to comfort the teacher or whatever. The first thing they need to say is, you need to take this issue to your principal. It is, discuss it with her. Number four, get the issue of the board table until you and staff person have made every effort to work through the conflict, depending on your board's policies and on their involvement in the conflict. You may then have to bring the resolution before the board for approval. And once the policy is approved, the writing the policy is not that difficult, but being sure that everyone understands it, everyone in agreement with it. Even if they are not in agreement, it is the majority is in agreement and the board is making sure that this is our policy, is very important. Then have to bring the resolution before the board for approval. After this resolution becomes the board policy, there is nobody can say anything about it. But you need to do the preliminary work ahead of time. Regain the trust of board members involved. Honest communication is the best route to rebuilding their confidence. So any questions or any comments here?
This is really just about establishing the rules of engagement, and everybody has to remember, sometimes it's not personal, but we have certain protocols that we are expected to follow in our roles, and we have to adhere to them and enforce them.
Yeah, and I would, by the way, we are talking about the policies, I would really recommend every board should have a policy book, and that policy book should be in every board meeting. Mm-hmm. And so everyone should kind of know these are the policies and you need to abide by it until the board decides maybe we made a mistake in this, this is too harsh, maybe this is too difficult, whatever, and they will change it and they will sign it and they will put a date there so everyone would know this policy is kind of changed. Until then, everyone should go with the policy. By the way, when I talk about the policy handbook, people are kind of, who's going to do it? It is difficult. I mean, the first thing I would suggest to do is, anytime issue like this comes, assign a subcommittee or if there is a committee writing the policies, let them write it down and put it in a binder, even if it is one paper. Couple months later, it will be 2 papers, 3 papers, 5 papers. And by the end of the year, you will find yourself that you have a small policy book. And if you are there for 10 years, it will become quite a big policy handbook. Any thoughts, or should we move?
We have 2 more scenarios to go, so let's kick it into gear here. You are a member of the executive committee and president-elect of the board of trustees. You receive an email signed by the faculty expressing their disapproval of the firing of the school librarian, 15 years with the school, and asking for a meeting with the trustees. Your committee had discussed the impending firing with the head before the action was taken. had both agreed that it was necessary and helped to work out the timing and terms of dismissal. Now that you know about board leadership, everybody, which option is correct? Take a look at them, and then Sister Necva, give your advice.
You call the school head, report the email, and say that you feel it is necessary to meet with the faculty, preferably without the school head, at least to show them that you are open to their concerns. Number two, you call the present chairman of the board and ask that a response be made to the faculty from the board. Number three, you ignore the email, assuming that the board chairman and/or school head will handle it. Number four, you send a reply to the faculty saying that although you understand their concern, hiring and firing decisions are the domain of the school head, whose action you support. Number five, you call the board chairman and ask for a special board meeting to deal with the crisis. Do you want to give some options here? What do you think is the right thing to do?
Open to the floor.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So basically, the executive committee, the issue came up with the executive committee. Executive committee is part of the board. And of course, the board chair will be involved too, but it is, you send a reply to faculty saying that although you understand their concern, hiring and firing decisions are the domain of the school head, whose action you support, is also a good option. Yeah.
Shall we go on to the next?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the last one, and really relevant to a lot of the folks that now have to work with e-learning and different platforms. So a computer program has been suggested for your school. As an educational policy committee meeting, you listened to an influential faculty member express a feeling that older faculty members feel threatened by it. The school head, who strongly supports the program, has discussed his plan for faculty education and program development, is not able to attend this meeting. So what is the right thing to do? These are your options.
You ask to postpone the vote until the school head can be present. Of course, you should do that, if anything. You give approval, but alert the school head to the teacher's reservations and ask for her reactions and plans in relation to doubts. You postpone the decision until more faculty members can express their opinions. You do not approve the program because of a lack of faculty support. You form a subcommittee to study the plan in a light of the teacher's comments. You postpone your decision until you hear the subcommittee's recommendation and how the concerns will be met. Which one do you like? Yeah, 5 is good. 5 is good. Good, you got all 5. Okay, that's great.
I think you learned to learn, okay.
Okay, I don't know how much time we have, but I was thinking if you want, we could come up with some of your scenarios and we'll talk about it together. Do we have time? Sue?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Let's open it up to the floor for discussion. Okay, just wanted to make the point that CISNA does offer accreditation. And, you know, this is a group where we can help each other. And Sister Sophia has, you know, put together these WhatsApp groups that if you don't know the answer to something, if you have a quandary of some sort, you know, all heads together. We've had so many experiences. There's a lot of wisdom among people in our groups. We should share. We should feel like we can go and contact each other and ask, you know, this is my situation. What should I do? Because you're sure to find answers. And if in doubt, or if you want to keep things private, as is understandable in many cases, call Sister Sophia. She's there for you. All right, I'll take it back to you now.
Okay, anyone has any issues that you want to have an answer from this group that they've been going through a lot. Everyone is learning while they are leading a school or being a board member or the school head. So we all learn from each other. So if you have any questions or challenges, let us discuss it.
How to energize the board members. In the last 10 years that I've experienced, there's only the board is run by 2 or 3 active members, and the rest of the 4 or 5 members usually are inactive and they only attend meeting and then they disappear. Is there a way of a strategy to energize the entire board member to get more efficient processes and outcome from the board?
I have a couple recommendations. Number one, I would not bring anyone to the board. I mean, I know that there is a challenge of difficulties bringing people to the board. But when people see the board is running very professionally and taking responsibilities, and it is, they will start respecting that board. I have so many boards that I work with. There are some boards that they have rules and regulations and the challenges and whatever, but everyone wants to be part of that board because they believe that something is happening in that board. Well, because of that, I would recommend that there will be a paper that it is lining up all the responsibilities of the board, and then I will ask their signature. That's number one. Every board member needs to sign commitment. Number two, I would not want to see any board member who doesn't have any responsibility around the board, because those are the ones they are going to be bored, or they are the ones that they are going to look for conflicts and issues. You want to give a responsibility to every board member. So every board member should feel when they are coming to the board that, oh, I have this responsibility. If I don't go, nobody is going to take care of that report, or nobody is going to take care of this issue. So it is delegating responsibility will be improving the board attitude. So my ideal board, I feel like everyone is sitting there and one person after another, each one of them was giving a responsibility, and they will be sharing their progress, or they will be getting feedback from the board. So if you do that, people start feeling that I am needed. And the third thing is, and also it is related to one of the scenarios here, that the quorum type of a thing. It is, first of all, if you put it in in your bylaws, you need to have a quorum of whatever. You need to ask the board members to attend. Let's say board chair, we said who's the disciplinarian, he's the disciplinarian. I have 12 board members and I see that 3 of them didn't show up. Immediately after the board meeting, I will call. I will see, sister, you were supposed to be in the meeting and we missed you and your part was not taken care of. And then the second person, the third person, this is something, that responsibility, it should be there for people. It doesn't mean if I'm a board member, if I have time, I will come. If I don't come. And first of all, making it very clear from the beginning of the school year, these are our board meeting dates, and you won't change it unless there is something that everyone agrees and it is important that you will change it. But everyone puts it in their calendar. Everyone knows it is the third Sunday is our meeting day. And it is, if someone doesn't come, if this is a habit, as a board chair, should call ahead of time and say, sister, we didn't see you last meeting, and for sure we are looking forward to see you this meeting. And if this happens 3 times, I will call for a meeting, and that could be outside the school, it could be coffee shop, it could be office, it could be whatever, and I will have a very serious talk. I need people that they are going to work in our board. I mean, if a board chair takes it seriously, the board members will take it seriously too. I always talk about the culture that you are creating in the board. If you are creating a very loose, comfortable group of people, if they want, they will come. If they don't, they don't. And this is what they take. If you make it sure that they need to come, and they will come. So, I rather run the school with a 4 or 5 board members than having 12 and half of them, they don't come. We don't need seat warmers. We just want people that they're gonna do some work. Sorry.
Brother
Mr.
Sultan had his hand up. I think he wanted to say something. Brother Sulman, go ahead.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. So one thing, as a board that we decided a few years ago is that we will not give the authority to fire or hire to the principal. And we still practice that today. How many schools are there that still continue to do that? We take principal's recommendation. That is their final recommendation, but the board reserves the authority at the end to make the call. So, and this has been, we've been down a few potholes, for the lack of a better term. And Sister Necva, how could we overcome that fear that we have that we're going to lose staff to, we've discussed a few scenarios here about principal, hiding and fighting at their whim.
Well,
So how do you overcome that fear?
okay. One of the thing that I wanted to share with you, the practices I'm sharing with you are the best practices all the independent schools they use. So all the independent schools, they give that power to the school head and the principal. If you are creating a different model because it works for your community, maybe it is something that you could consider it that it is a just temporary, but you are going to move from that practice. Let's say in California, I served in the California Association of Independent Schools as a board member. And one of the things that if they go for accreditation, they won't give an accreditation to a school. The board has that power. They feel that that power should be in the hands of the school head. The reason for that is because every day, first of all, you hire the school head and you trust that person, and who's every day there, you are empowering that person to take those kind of decisions. So that's the logic that we are coming up with. But for some reason, you have been practicing something else and you want to be out of that practice, at least understand that this is not something where we want to be, but this is something transitional until we find a better solution. One of the better solutions that I could be suggesting is not better than just empowering the school head, but let's say you could tell the school head, if it reaches a point that you are going to ask someone to leave, discuss with the board chair, let's say. And the practice that I was recommending that there is regular meetings. In the regular meetings, let's say the school head could say to the board chair, I know it is not a board decision, but I've been working with the third grade teacher. You've been hearing problems with the third grade teacher. And after working together, we reached a conclusion that this is not going to be resolved. This is not the right place for that teacher. So I'm going to ask that person to leave end of the school year. And these are all the paperwork that I put together for that principal, for that teacher. And then the evaluations are done. And so it is, if you want, I could share it with you, but I don't want to bring it to the whole board because it's going to become an issue of the confidentiality. This is where I am. Do you have any recommendation? So basically, this will kind of give the power to the board chair, which board chair, if something happens, could protect the principal because he knows what's taking place, and he knows also the right steps are taken. If it is not, if he asks, well, did you evaluate this teacher? Do you have a formal reports here? And then if she says, no, I wasn't able to do that, and then he might recommend that this is not going to look good for the school. Please do the formal evaluations. Please give formal recommendations. And then after that, it is you might think, come and discuss it with me again. So these kind of practices, it develops trust and respect between principal and the school head. believe me, it is one of the things that it is happening in the Islamic school. Either the principals are very angry and upset and leaving the school, or the boards are very angry and from the principal. And because we don't respect each other like that, I used to feel that what happens to the professionalism or the Islamic respect to each other when we are having an Islamic boards or Islamic school board? What is happening? And somehow you leave all the professionalism outside the door, and then you come and you start kind of brother-sister attitude. Nothing wrong calling each other brother-sister, but it is, we need to really understand we are professional people.
The egos
And
get involved. Yeah.
yeah, we are going to deal with things as a, I think someone is asking about the hiring committee. That's again, it is one of the good practices if you are not leaving or if you don't trust yet your school head. It is a good practice. But again, the whole power was given to me as a school head, but I would ask some of the board members to be with me in some cases that I feel this might become a problem later on, just to give me an advice. So it will be a good idea to form a hiring committee, but give that power to the school head to have a hiring committee. And sometimes I used to have some of the administrators from the school, not as much board members, because those administrators, they know a lot. Let's say the elementary school head or the middle school chair or whoever that I have, because they know what is it needed in the school more than the board will need. But keeping the board in the loop is a very good idea.
There's a question or comment for Brother Fawad.
Can I just add to that? I know Brother Fawad, you're going to be next, inshallah, and then Brother Salman. But I just want to add that you don't want to undermine the authority of the principal or the head of school. And that's what happens when that person that you hired, that you're supposed to support, and you're supposed to make sure they have a good job description, you're supposed to keep in touch with throughout the year so that they know that, they're doing what the school's, following the school's mission, and everything, every decision is aligned with the school's mission. If you take away that autonomy, then you undermine that person's authority with the entire staff. So just keep that in mind. And could be a whole session just on this particular topic, but I'm going to ask Brother Fawad, and then after that, Brother Salman instead.
Sister Sophia, very well said. Very well said. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I just wanted to share some reflections on the question about energizing a board. I was on a local board here in Southern California for over a decade, and 4 of those years I served as president. And one of the things that I brought to the table was we created an organizational compact of excellence, and this was among the board. And it had 2 parts. One was a performance excellence, and the second one was a moral excellence. So this was let's say you have a group of 10 on your board. They came up with suggestions in each of these categories. What should you be doing as a board member? What are your expectations? And then I put everything together, and then that's what we use for the duration of my tenure. And it was not something that I dictated or a nonprofit dictated, but it was something that we came up together. And then the second thing, I come from a sports background, so I would highly recommend you do fun activities with your board. Not every board meeting has to be in that boardroom from 9 to 12. The second suggestion is to involve the families. So if you do picnics or you go out for dinner or if you host iftar parties, this really helps to build that camaraderie. And then whenever a new board member comes, you just have to remind them that we as the board are the #1 fans of the school. We are cheering on the sidelines for all of the stakeholders, principal, staff, teachers, students, and parents. And from experience, I can tell you that goes a long way. That goes a very long way. And I just wanted to say kudos to CISNA, to Miss Susan, Miss Sophia, and Sister Najwa. You are giants in the field. And I put in the chat, Miss Ozgur, we're looking forward to your book, inshallah, coming out in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Fawad. I think your thoughts are very well said. And one of the things that in the first board meeting, You call it, I don't remember what you call it, but I call it norms. So in the first board meeting, I will ask the board members we are going to live together for one whole year at least, minimum. So I want to see, to make these meetings harmonious, what are the things you would like to see from each other? And we will start writing in the whiteboard. It is, I like to see that no one interrupts somebody else. It's like you said, it is coming from the rest of the people. We will start on time and we will finish on time. And we will bring some refreshments ahead of the meeting. So the meeting will start 9 o'clock, it is 8:30, there are some refreshments. So all of those things coming from the board members. And I will put that whiteboard in the boardroom. And anytime someone does something that it is against that norm, I will ask someone to just go to the board and just kind of see that which norm is not respected. So this way, it is kind of, you are creating a culture. I have one board training about the board culture. It is really important. It is, some boards are very respectful, very timely, everything is moving so greatly. And then there are some board meetings that people are arguing and yelling and screaming to each other. So we need to do all the preventive measures so we can have a respectful board and people would like to come. And also related to the motivation, I received the invitation from an organization. They were telling me, would you please join our board? And what they were telling me is, it is not going to be challenging. And I said, what do you expect from me? They said, nothing. Just come once a month and we have 2 hours meeting and we won't give you a hard time. It is just come and sit. My response was, I really don't have time to come and sit in your board meeting. I would rather sit in my home. So again, not being open, not being truthful, not giving a person a responsibility is not going to motivate that person. Sometimes we think that just saying nothing is going to be motivating to people. No, it doesn't. So
Brother
I
Salman,
think,
go ahead.
Yeah, one last question from me. And we had a unique scenario this year where, we were transitioning to e-learning, and one of the teachers basically was having a really hard time, with e-learning. And we have a new principal and who is, transitioning into this role. And at the same time, this teacher has been there for quite a few years with us. And what had happened was the incoming class, an outgoing class for previous year, had some challenges with the teachers because some of the teachers left the school mid-year. And when they came in now, they were not up to the mark, and the teacher was, struggling a little bit with their performance thus far. So what had happened was at the mid school year, the entire parent community reached out to the school and said, hey, we can't deal with this because this teacher is not able to teach online and we are planning to go elsewhere. What do you do in that scenario when about 70% of the parents have come from one particular classroom and are suggesting that either you change the teacher or we are going elsewhere, and especially in these trying times at the school?
yeah, I think that's a very difficult situation. And I hear from some teachers that I was trained to be a teacher, but all of a sudden you are expecting me to be a technology whiz and keeping the students motivated and excited. And I understand their issues too, especially the teachers, they are older, that they didn't grow up or they weren't educated with technology. It is not that easy. So what are you going to do with this situation? Couple options. Number one, it is in my school, the general rule was middle of the year, we used to meet with all the administrators and we will make a list of all the teachers and we will kind of put next to the teachers, this is a great teacher, so we are not gonna, spend our time with this person. And it is, or this teacher needs to be lots of work. It is like, are we willing to put that much work? And in the end, we are going to have a good results or whatever. So the question that I would ask the school head or the principal and myself is, are we going to be able to make a good teacher from this teacher that who has a shortcomings? Because it's almost like all the teachers, they have one or two shortcomings. It's not going to be every teacher is perfect. So is it worth working with this teacher or not? If it is not, if we reach wholeheartedly to the conclusion that this teacher is not going to make it, then maybe then it is time to look for a new teacher. But again, middle of the year, it's not going to be that easy these days, especially. The third thing I want to bring to your attention is, how could we help this teacher so it will be okay? Let's say one of the things are, oh, there are some workshops, there are some trainings, and all the teachers are going through that. And I have one school that all the teachers are trained. So would we be able to do that? Another thing is, would we be able to give a teacher's aide who's younger person, who's more technologically trained? And so giving that person as a assistant teacher, maybe will save the day. So all of those things are possibilities to go with. Before I dismiss any teacher, I look at all these options. And how am I going to train this person? Because as you said, it is not like very easy to find the good teachers. And if you fire someone, you're not going to be able to do someone better. I used to think that at least I know the shortcomings of this teacher. I'm going to work with these teachers. And if I get someone new, who knows what shortcomings this person is going to have. Mm-hmm. So it is not easy, but, and then same time comforting the parents. And kind of talking about the positives of that teacher and the good things can come up. And I think these are the other thing is, hopefully this COVID thing is going to be over soon. And inshallah, in few months, maybe it's not going to be as needed, the online teaching. Maybe by next year, all the schools are going to be back face-to-face teaching. So it is, can I tolerate this couple months with this person?
I concur with everything that Sister Necva has said. In addition to that, one of my passions is learning about health and wellness. And many people think that as they get older, oh, it's hard, I'm not able to learn. Science just dictates that that's wrong. It really does go back to the growth mindset. It does not matter your age. It really is your attitude, that if you believe that you can learn, you have to put maybe a little more effort, but you can learn anything. And as always, with regular learning, even for our students, repetition breeds familiarity. It makes things easier. So in addition to what Sister Necva had said, another possibility is buddy that teacher up with another teacher, and just let them know that, you can do this and you can get there. And we're going to give you all the help that you need, because this is a tool. Just as you expect your students to learn new things, it's time to learn some new things. Be a good example for them. So it can be done.
Good.
All right. Anything else, or are we ready to close? Brother Salman, I think we're ready for the closing dua. And thank you so much, everybody, for your support. Please make sure that if you are not a member of CISNA presently, get on board with us. Go to our website and sign in. And inshallah, many of you will be applying for accreditation. Our numbers are increasing phenomenally. We're so very pleased. And so thank you for joining us today, especially to Sister Necva for your expertise. We appreciate your time. Sister Sophia for putting this all together, and all of you for your kind comments. Assalamu alaikum. Brother Salman.
جزاك الله خيرا. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
آمين.
جزاك
Assalamu
الله
alaikum,
خيرا.
everyone.
السلام عليكم.